Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I?
Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a conversation about the mundane. One thing we can promise is that our conversation will be less than fascinating, so you can feel free to drift off. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will listen and sleep. I'm your host, Nidhi Khanna, and today we have a very special guest in studio with us, Amanda Barker.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, some of you might remember, some of our listeners who've been subscribing to our podcast, that every time Marco and I have a conversation, somehow the conversation leads back to Amanda in some way or another, either through referencing their wedding and speaking about flowers, or talking about the long drives in the summer that Amanda and I take in terms of our country antiquing adventures. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here.
Amanda, you're a fan of candles, aren't you?
I am. I love candles.
What is it about a candle that is so appealing to you?
Well, I think fire being one of the most basic elements of the earth, fire, wind, water, and rock. I think fire is one of those elements that every human responds to in a very visceral way. I feel like whether it's one flame or a bonfire or a fireplace, there's something about a flame that allows people to connect and to just slow down and take pause. And that's what I really love about candles.
And do you, because I like to, at the end of the day, light a candle, whether I'm enjoying a glass of wine or there's something that is part of my ritual in terms of coming home at the end of the day. I need to light a candle. There's something that makes the atmosphere a little bit different. Do you have a particular scent that you gravitate towards?
I tend to like a nice sandalwood.
Oh, sandalwood.
Yeah, something musky or patchouli based. That said, I do find some candles are particularly strong, so I'm not always in love with a very strong candle. Perfume in general makes my throat close up, so I have to be very careful when I'm using scents.
Well, you spoke a moment ago about bonfires. Can you tell me about a time when you were at a bonfire and what the situation was that brought you there?
Sure. The last bonfire I can readily remember was I was in New Hampshire at a bonfire just outside of Concord, New Hampshire, which is the capital of New Hampshire. And I had a good friend whose father lived there in a really fun sort of cottage in the woods. He's an artist, his father is, and he makes large wood sculptures. So we were in this sort of wooded area surrounded by wooden art and some stone art as well. And his father threw us a very big bonfire. Now, I was in New Hampshire because I was performing in a show at the time. And because it was one of my fellow actors' hometowns, his dad offered to host us all with a really big roaring fire outside. I should add that it was in January, so there was snow, but we were really warm because the fire was quite large.
I love bonfires in the winter. I feel like there's something about the smell of a bonfire and the burning wood just somehow makes winter seem like it's a winter smell.
That's right. Cozy.
Cozy.
Yeah.
But that being said, give me a bonfire by the beach any day. Now, your parents, they live in Florida. Are there a lot of bonfires in Florida?
Well, there's some heavy restrictions for burning in Florida because a lot of the land where they live is quite protected. They live literally a stone's throw from a bird sanctuary. So they have to be very careful. You can't just have a fire anywhere. So for them, they don't normally engage in bonfires, but they do have, I believe, an open flame pit outside in a sort of secluded area underneath some palm trees, and sometimes we'll have some fire roaring there.
And are marshmallows still part of the bonfire ritual?
Not for my dad because he's diabetic.
Oh, well, we don't want that.
For my mother and for me and my brother and sister when they find time to come, which isn't very often.
Well, family is family. Amanda, tell me, what is your favorite beach?
Oh, wow. There are so many. I love beaches. One of my favorite beaches is Cinnamon Bay on the island of St. John. St. John is an American Virgin Island. It's one of the few American Virgin Islands. There's St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix. But St. John is actually the smallest and hardest to get to and most secluded. The majority of St. John is a national park. So there are 3 beautiful, well-known beaches on St. John. And the middle beach is Cinnamon Bay, and that's my particular favorite. The snorkeling there is gorgeous and serene. It's very often that you can have the beach to yourself, which is magical. And it's not unusual to see many types of fish when you're snorkeling in that water. Highly recommended. Not easy to get to, but a beautiful beach all the same.
Now, Cinnamon Bay, I don't know if you are aware, but in a previous podcast episode, your husband and I were discussing the ingredients in what would make the best official cookie for the city of Toronto.
Oh, interesting.
And one of those ingredients that we decided would be really, really important to have in there would actually be cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
The spiciness and the warmness.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I need to ask you, what do you feel would be the best ingredient for Toronto's official cookie?
I think oatmeal. I think Toronto is an oatmeal cookie type of city because oatmeal is both healthy but can also be sweet. And I believe that Toronto is a very health-conscious city but also enjoys its treats. So for me, it would be maybe an oatmeal raisin chocolate chip.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a bit of the sweet and savory in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference between sweet and savory?
I like them together myself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a sweet tooth person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't go without at the end of a meal after dinner. I would always need something sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened to me a few years ago, and all of a sudden, I turned into a savory person.
Interesting.
And instead of going for the sweet, I would go for the potato chips or the pretzels or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I cleansed my body of sweet food or I found when I stopped taking sugar in my coffee
Oh, I see.
that I didn't crave sweets as much, and I found things to be too sugary after that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever encountered a similar type of thing or gone through a change in diet that has created a different taste for you?
I have been told that craving sweet and savory together can be a symptom of an electrolyte imbalance. Electrolytes essentially can be salts and sugars. And there's something that people recommend if someone's been sick or ill in any way or had any digestive problem, that they simply use salt and sugar to, retain or contribute to their electrolyte balance. So for me, I do find that when I have sweet and savory together, then I do crave it more, whether it be fries dipped in honey, which is one of my personal favorites.
Really?
Mm-hmm,
So
yeah.
how did you discover that concoction?
Well, when I was a child, I never ate beef, but I would eat chicken nuggets. And the first thing that I was ever given with my chicken nuggets was honey. So as a child, this idea of chicken tenders, chicken fingers, or chicken nuggets with honey was something that would become my go-to at various restaurants. Not unlike most children, I think. As I got older, I would get chicken nuggets with fries, and then I wouldn't just dip the chicken nuggets into honey, I would dip the fries in as well, and I still do to this day.
That is interesting. I think I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah. You'll never go back once you try it.
Is honey a staple in your diet?
It absolutely is. And actually, both my mother and grandmother, by the time they were my age, had seasonal allergies, which I can say with some certainty that I haven't really experienced. Certainly not to any type of way that it would be noticeable, certainly by me or anyone else. And I think that possibly one of the reasons I've managed to fight growing allergies, seasonal allergies, in my later adulthood is because I do try to have the honey of any region that I'm in, and I try to sample many different types of honey. For example, when I was visiting Mexico City, the honey there tastes like rose petals.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You could tell that the bees had a wide variety of rose pollen when making the honey. Whereas here in Toronto, you're more apt to find a wildflower honey from the wildflowers that grow in the rural parts of Ontario, and even not the rural parts of Ontario.
Do you have a favorite type or like a favorite region to get your honey from?
It's a good question. When I was in Georgia, I really loved the honey there. There was some beautiful, thick buckwheat honey that I really, really loved in Savannah, Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried Portuguese honey?
No, I haven't.
So we used to have Portuguese honey because it was less sweet.
Interesting.
And it's actually supposed to be very good for the skin.
Oh, interesting.
Because honey, as you may know, has natural antibacterial properties, which is why it's used in so many different, face masks and exfoliants, etc. when you're making them at home. But this Portuguese honey is you drink it with as a concoction with hot water in the morning, and it completely cleanses your skin.
Now I'm curious, would you have it? When I was a child, I discovered a concoction of warm water or cold water, honey, vinegar, and lemon. Is this something you've ever tried?
Now, I've done the warm water, honey, and lemon. I've never had it with vinegar.
It's that definitely speaks to a sweet and savory balance, or possibly imbalance. I've been told that some people who have an overgrowth of yeast in their body might want both sweet and savory at the same time, and people will crave the sort of the acidity of vinegar with the sweetness of the honey. I'm not sure, but when I was about 10, I read a book on beekeeping, and this was the drink that was the recipe in the school book. So I went home and I went into my parents' fridge and found the vinegar and found the honey in the cupboard and made it myself, and it's still to this day something that I crave.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake, delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit BlueApron.com/terms for more.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side, your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, during our President's Day sale, take 50% off our limited edition bed, plus an extra $100 off all mattresses. And Saturday, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Now, speaking of beekeeping, so we've talked about different things that Marco and I did when we were children. So we talked about our fascination with stamp collecting. We talked about how we all both wanted to go into medicine and ended up in the arts. Did you ever want to become a beekeeper? And
it's funny that you asked that, and actually I want to thank you for that, because you've just reminded me there's a beekeeping course offered by the city of Toronto that actually I very much want to take. And a friend of mine who I've worked with twice, her name is Boyana, and she is from the Ukraine. She's a makeup artist. I worked with her on a commercial, and then I ran into her on another commercial much later, and she told me about this beekeeping course that she was going to take, and it reminded me just now that I'd like to get the information on it and maybe keep a few bees in my backyard.
now that would be, I guess, fascinating and dangerous at the same time, or...
It would be for my neighbors, certainly.
Correct.
Yeah.
But what did you want to be when you were a child? Like, what did you think you wanted to
My
be when you grew up?
first ambition was to be, I think my first ambition was to be a ballet dancer.
Ah, yes, because you were a big dancer when you were a child.
Yeah, I loved to dance, and I loved ballet in particular, and I loved the this idea of the pain that it took to get there, and that if I just worked hard enough that maybe I could get there. But when I was about 10, 11, maybe 12, I realized that what I really truly enjoyed was the storytelling aspect of dance. And so I thought that perhaps I didn't have really what it took to become, a lead dancer, prima ballerina, if you will. And so I hung up my toe shoes. I also moved at that time, so furthering my career in dance wasn't really an option. And instead I focused more on acting and performing, and I've never looked back.
Is there, other than ballet, like, is there a contemporary dance that you prefer?
Well, ballet was always my first love. I loved tap, but I was always told I wasn't very good at it. So, but I do love it. I actually always wanted to, and I took a few classes. I wanted to learn to break dance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a mascot, a professional mascot, and I always wanted to be able to, whip out some smooth breakdancing moves as a mascot. Never really got that good. My upper body strength isn't really good at all, so it was hard for me to do any of the holds, but I did enjoy it all the same.
Have you ever tried these bar classes, which are ballet fitness classes?
I don't think I have done I've certainly done bar, but I don't think I've done a ballet class in a fitness facility, not in recent memory, although I do have a friend who is going to start a training course to teach it, in fact.
Well, I've done it a couple of times, Amanda. I gotta say, it is one of the most intense things that I have ever experienced in my life.
Heard, yeah.
And it's funny because you go in there and you think, oh, I'm just kind of taking a dance class. But I felt pain from muscles I didn't realize that I had with those ballet classes. But I want to just circle back quickly and talk about your time as a mascot.
Sure.
What was your favorite memory from being a mascot?
Well, my favorite memory, I have a lot. I have a few different favorite memories, but one of them, I guess, would be there was a baseball player named Roy Halladay. He still plays. And that particular year that I was working with the Toronto Blue Jays, he had pitched, I don't remember the number, but a series of no-hitter games, meaning that none of the people on the other team could hit the ball when he was pitching. And that went on for many, many games. And finally, when he got to a certain number, and I don't remember the number, it was pretty clear that he would win something called the Cy Young Award, which is an award reserved for pitchers in baseball and Major League Baseball. And so many news outlets were interviewing him after the game, he was sitting there, and I ran up behind him and did a sort of bow, as though
As the mascot.
as though I was not worthy, that none of us were worthy, kind of thing. And in my ear, I could hear the head of Game Ops saying, "Diamond," which was my character's name, "Diamond, get out of the shot. Diamond, get out of the shot." But I ignored it, and I kept going anyway, because I knew that the character would not be there much longer. And I wanted her to have her moment in the sun. And frankly, at that moment, I didn't much care.
That is a good memory.
I have another wonderful memory.
Tell
I'd
us.
need to continue.
Yeah.
There was another player. If anyone follows Toronto baseball, then this might have meaning to them. But there was a pitching coach in the Blue Jays dugout. And when I say in the dugout, I don't mean the part that one can visibly see, but rather the part of the dugout where one walks down into the sort of basement area and people wait and warm up and whatever. And often that's where the mascots go. So I had to go out for the 7th inning, but as anyone knows, an inning in baseball can take, 5 minutes or an hour. It's anyone's guess. So I had to be in costume waiting to go, but often I'd be there standing for quite a long time. And then as the season wore on, I started playing something I called the name game with one of the security guards, where we would try to come up with baseball players' names. So, for example, if Roy Halladay was the baseball player, then the next name would have to begin with H, a Howard or Hal or that type of thing. Anyhow, we would play that, and we weren't particularly good at it. I only knew the players that I had met or had seen playing. And this very large, kind man started playing with us. I knew he worked with the team. I didn't know who he was. But he was very good at the game. He knew a lot of players' names. And as the season wore on, finally, by the end of the season, I realized that I had been playing the name game every day with a man named Cito Gaston, who, to this day, is probably my favorite player in baseball. Sorry. Although, maybe he could play basketball, too. I'm not sure. Very lovely man, Cito Gaston.
And so, with this lovely mascot, because what a wonderful experience, like a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you had. Tell me about the conversation when you found out that this mascot was no longer going to be used.
Well, it was 10 minutes before the home opening game. I was getting my costume on, and I was about to fasten my hat on. And I was pulled aside and said, "Just so you know, this character won't continue after this season. We're phasing her out. We want you to know that, because we want you to know that it has nothing to do with you, but we won't be featuring her as much. So if you notice that the other mascot has more to do or is more in the spotlight, we just thought we should warn you ahead of time." And it felt like someone had punched me in the gut. I was sad, and I was about to go perform for 60,000 people. But then I realized what it really meant was that I could do whatever I wanted. So for that example, with Roy Halladay, when people told me to get out of the shot, I just continued onward. And then at the end of the season, they decided they'd change their mind because I had done such a good job with it. They wanted me to continue. Unfortunately, at that moment, I had accepted a new job with the second city, so I wasn't able to commit to the role in the way that would have been a full committing of the role, and so they had to work around my existing schedule, which was, to be honest, really only working on Sundays. So the mascot sort of faded out the next year when I could only do a series of Sundays, and then after that, she was no more.
Well, it looks like you left there with them wanting more.
Well, that's true, and I always hope that maybe someday they'll bring the character back, because little girls really loved her and loved getting her autograph and seeing something that...
Can you describe what she looked like? Like, what was the mascot costume?
So her name was Diamond. She was blue because it was for the Toronto Blue Jays. She had a series of different pants. When they started the character, she had white, sort of old-timey baseball pants with little red ribbon around the edges. But by the time I came along, I was the third diamond, the third person playing that role. And there were no white pants left for me, or they didn't fit me, I think. The other girls were much tinier than me. And so I just wore blue pants that actually I still have. Blue pants that were like running pants almost, with stripes down the side. And that's what I wore. Then I wore a big white baseball shirt, and I had eyelashes, big eyes and eyelashes, and a mechanical device in my hand that would make one of the eyes wink at people, although it didn't work most of the time. Yeah, and a big red flower in my hair.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And children would gravitate. Now, when you're playing a mascot, is it kind of like playing Santa Claus? In that you can never really, like, is it, you never want the children to know that the mascot isn't a mascot?
I see, yeah. Well, the interesting thing was, I respected that. I definitely would never have taken, my head off anywhere in public. But the interesting thing was you would be playing with some kids or some people, maybe many times throughout the game. And I would always take the subway home. I didn't have a car in those days, so I would take the subway home. And I'd often sit across or next to the kids that I'd been playing, but they had no idea who I was, and I just smile at them.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being here with me today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot about mascoting and about sweet and savory. And we hope to have you back again soon.
Well, I'm here anytime.
Thank you so much for listening, and if you have anything that you would like to tweet to contact us, please do find us online at Listen and Sleep. Marco will be back next episode, and as usual, we are broadcasting from Toronto, and we hope that you have relaxed, are in a deep, deep slumber, and we'll see you next time.